Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of the project. In this episode, Raz and I play photo roulette. We both talk about when we almost died, and together we decide to always question the man. So get comfortable for the second episode of the project. One, two, 3, 4, 5. That takes way too much brain power.
It does.
Hello, Raz.
Hi, Ron.
How are you?
Currently my brain's broken trying to sync up.
I know. Oh, it's been far too long since we've actually just sat and spoken to each other.
It has been. I was beginning to think you didn't like me anymore.
Well.
Oh, wow. This is how I find out?
And the final episode.
Darn.
No, my life has been hectic. But we are still on schedule to release at the right time.
Are we, though?
Yeah, we've got until the end of November, so we've got 4 weeks.
Oh, great. Because I didn't know we had a schedule.
We're meant to be releasing once a month, that's the aim. But we're not going to make any promises, because that would mean I have to do work.
And as we all know, Ron doesn't like doing extra work.
Oh, of course, yeah. A bare minimum right here. I thought we'd start off. We'll do a quick kind of podcast update section. I don't know whether you saw Fen and I chatting about this, but we are in the process of updating our podcast name.
Mm-hmm, I did.
To being the project : the name of the project. Not sure what we're calling it yet. Which is what this is about. So we're reaching out to the listeners to some extent, if people have ideas of what the word should be, so the name of the project. My view is that we should probably go with a Latin word, because I kind of like Latin. I find it an intriguing idea. I've got a couple of ideas. I can't imagine off the top of your head you know enough Latin to pluck a project name out of thin air.
No, not really.
I'll run through mine. You can give me your feedback.
Okay.
So the one I'm most interested in is calling it the Project Luna. So Luna being moon.
Mm-hmm.
Because our approximate release schedule is once a month, that lines up quite neatly with being once a moon cycle.
Oh, I like it.
So it's a slightly kind of subtle hint that we're meant to be releasing once a month, even if we don't. So that's my number one at the moment. I've got 3 others. They are Osiris, which is the one I suggested just off the top of my head. It's not actually Latin, I don't think. It's early Egyptian.
Yeah.
So it's the god of life, death, and the afterlife. But the Project Osiris has a ring to it, in my mind at least.
It does. It sounds nice. Just be worried what the podcast's going to become if it's life, death, and the afterlife.
Yeah. Well, going off last episode where we spoke about dying with no cause, then you never know.
Today's topics, at least on my end, isn't going to help break that stereotype.
No, mine isn't either. Oh no. The major topic is slightly happier though.
Yeah, same.
So it'll be lighter then. Okay, so we've then got kurabita, which means chat. So it's like a verb, to chat. So the project kurabita. I think that's a bit of a mouthful. It's not that easy to spell.
Yeah. I like the sound, but I can't imagine it being easy to spell.
And then the final one I have is mensis, which means month. Again, playing off the release schedule idea.
I can kind of see that being a little too hard to spell, though. I would have to see it.
So Luna, I think, is what I'm leaning towards. But as I say, if others have any ideas, feel free to tweet at us, either our personal accounts or the podcast account, tpod21. Yeah, that's the kind of project update for the moment. Okay, Raz.
Yes.
How have you been for the last few weeks? Do you have any interesting stories?
Well, funny you should ask, Ron.
Oh, really?
It's almost like I didn't know this was going to happen. I do have one dark story and another one that could perk us up again.
Okay, that's the way to do it. Start dark, brighten towards the morning.
So last month, towards the beginning of the month, around on the 6th probably, I was actually involved in a car accident. I'm sure you saw it. Some of the listeners would have saw about it, but it turned out fine. I mean, we're fine. I was in the car with my father, but it was one of those things that had the potential to have turned deadly in an instant. So basically what was happening is we were traveling down. It's not really a freeway, it's more of like a highway kind of deal. It was about 7 or 8 at night. It was around this time, so it was getting dark. And since we were on the freeway, we were going at around 60 miles per hour. I don't know what that would be for you. Maybe you make...
Oh, I work in miles per hour.
Oh, okay, perfect. No extra work for me. We were going about 60 miles per hour, and there's this trailer that like you would pull a car from. I don't even know how to describe this. So there's this road, and then it's a 2-lane road, and this trailer is taking up both lanes.
Okay.
So we're driving down this highway, and since it's dark outside, we don't see it until we're probably, I want to say maybe 300 feet away. And then in the time I reacted to tell my father, we had traveled probably another 100 or 150 feet. And then he slammed on the brakes, and we managed to get down to maybe like 15 miles per hour. But we still hit the trailer, and it completely ruined the front of his car. The bumper was pushed out. Lights were broken.
Yeah.
Could have been real bad, because that could have easily killed us. We could have swerved off the road and fell in a ditch.
Yeah.
My dad could have tried to turn, and I would have gotten the brunt of the impact. So usually trailers here, I don't know what the laws are over there with you guys, Ron, but trailers have to have lights, and they have to have reflectors on the sides and obviously on the back. This trailer had none of that. And especially this trailer was backing out of a driveway. So I don't know how you're going to back out of a driveway with the trailer on a highway.
Yeah. I don't know why you would build a house on a highway anyway.
Well, this wasn't really like it was more like of a living complex, because the area we were in is mostly fields or, farms and stuff.
Okay, yeah.
So this was like a little residential area, but that wasn't its main purpose. You could also go through this driveway to go to the fields where they keep the machines and everything. So we get out, and this person has no proof of insurance, can't prove the car is his. What else? Supposedly he was renewing his driver's license because he's from another city. So we have no documentation that this person is supposed to be driving. And then to top it off, we heard kids in the back. So
No, really?
yeah. And they seem to be moving around. So as far as I know, they had no seatbelt on. So it's just, you know how it is with insurance companies. It's a nightmare.
Yeah.
The guy changed up his story, said he was parked in the road, like by the driveway, and we hit him. It's been a nightmare.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But you and your father are okay.
Yeah, we're fine. I mean, the only damage was to the car, but that damage turned out to be over $1,000.
Oh yeah, it builds up quickly.
Yeah.
I guess to the point where the damage is worth more than the car itself, you just end up writing it off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, this wasn't too much over $1,000, because it was just the bumper and the
It's just the crumple zones take the impact.
Yeah, but thankfully we're okay. But it's just that could have turned out real bad.
Yeah, and it's such a fiasco to then have to deal with insurance, and
And then it's
following that up can take months.
Yeah, especially like there's a language barrier there, because my dad he speaks very broken English. So not only did I have to interpret for the guy who was driving, I also had to interpret for the insurance, and then things get lost in translation. It's a pain, Ron. Don't ever get in a car accident.
No. Well, speaking of...
Oh my gosh.
What I was going to bring up was I was almost run over yesterday.
Oh my.
I came within a foot of being hit off my bike, which is the closest I've been to being hit when I'm cycling around. So, oh, what a coincidence, eh? So I was cycling back from a band practice, so rehearsal. So I had my bass on my back, and I had an extra bag with me as well, and it was about 10:30 in the evening, so it's completely pitch black here. Apart from the road that I was cycling down, which is, because it's such a main road, it's got street lights the entire length of it. It's a very well lit road. And I've got front and rear lights on my bike. I'm wearing a jacket which has reflective stripes on it. So I can be seen pretty well. It's like I'm not hiding. I'm cycling along and I'm coming up to a double roundabout. Do you know what a roundabout is?
Mm-hmm.
I think they call them traffic circles.
Yeah, I know them by roundabouts.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, so a double roundabout. So two roundabouts that go directly into each other but are slightly offset. And 10:30 at night, it's pretty dead around. There's very few cars, very few people. So I'm just powering down this road to get home. Come up to this double roundabout and slow down because I'm not an idiot cycling. I'm not just going to go straight to the roundabout. Check, first roundabout's clear, so I pull onto that. Pull onto the second roundabout and I see an old Jaguar. You're at all interested in cars. I think it was an XJS, if I remember, which is about a 2-ton car. It's a very heavy car, and it's about getting on for 30 or 40 years old, so not like a great car to be stopping quickly. I saw that driving up to the first exit on this roundabout. So I was on the roundabout. They were approaching. I saw this car and I thought, kind of driver to own that car. Unlikely to stop at a roundabout. So I stopped pedaling and prepped to have to brake suddenly. So I shifted all my weight to the back of my bike so I didn't go over the handlebars. And it was like, are you going to pull out straight in front of me? So cycling down, I was still doing 15 to 20 miles an hour on my bike, and this car does pull straight out into the roundabout in front of me. So I slam both brakes on and like skid to a halt, which is dangerous because it's icy out at the moment as well, and brake before I go into the side of his car. He doesn't notice, completely oblivious, because the entire inside of his car was fogged up, so he couldn't see a thing, just pulled straight out onto the roundabout and carried on going. And I shouted, like, I got angry, clearly, because I'd almost been hit by this car. And it wasn't my fault at all. I was cycling perfectly legally. But I went full British and shouted, "What do you think you're doing?" I think I called him a fool as well. I was like, "You fool, what do you think you're doing?"
Oh my, Ron.
It's like classic British anger. I'm not going to get properly angry. I'm just going to politely insult him and then continue with my day. But I've never been that close to being in an accident. It was, that was scary.
Sticks with you.
Yeah, I only had 2 or 3 minutes left to get home, so I biked the rest of the way home. And I was going to head to bed early because I had an early start this morning. But I had so much like adrenaline pumping through my system that I was just awake for hours after that. I was like, did I do something wrong by pulling out onto the roundabout? But I didn't. It was my right of way, and I was there significantly before he was. He just didn't notice me.
I don't understand the mentality of this. How, if your car's windshield is fogged up, why are you still driving? Pull over and like try to rub it down or something.
Yeah, I don't know. But the kind of people who do just pull out onto roundabouts are also the kind of people who won't make sure their car is safe.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's really frustrating because if I hadn't assumed he was going to pull out and set myself up to brake, then I would have been under the front of his car or over the top of his car. But either way, that would have been my bike completely ruined, probably my base completely ruined. I had my phone, let alone me being injured. And it's like, if I break an arm at uni, that's going to be lectures ruined for 6 weeks. And it's like, 6 weeks is a large portion of my academic year. I can't deal with losing that amount of time in education at the moment. All because he was too impatient to like clean down his windscreen and too impatient to just stop at a roundabout and let me past. Yeah, I wasn't impressed.
I wouldn't be either.
I was quite amused afterwards in how I reacted, because most people would have been like swearing at the guy.
Oh, Ron, I would have said some things that would made a sailor blush.
Yeah, but no, I was just you fool.
That night that we had the accident, I told my dad afterwards, I'm glad you drove. I was thinking about driving that night, and I mean, I have been driving for a bit. I know how to properly drive, but I don't have the experience of like 40 years of driving. So I was like, we talked about it. He was like, well, maybe you would have stopped sooner because you tend to be more of a cautious driver, but I'm just glad I didn't. I don't know what I would have done in that situation. I probably would have tried to avoid it, and my dad would have got the brunt of it.
When I was learning to drive, so quite a few years back now, 4 or 5 years, I was driving home. I was working at the time. I was doing a placement year, so I was in a full-time job as a mechanical engineer, driving back from work, and I was in my mother's car. We were driving down, it's like a completely straight road for about a mile. Nice, simple road, but there's houses both sides with streets, every few houses. So I was fairly alert, and being a new driver, I was kind of on edge, expecting everything to go wrong. So I was driving down this road, just chatting with my mum about what I'd done at work during the day. And I saw this flash out of the corner of my eye. So I just emergency stop as soon as possible. So I was doing 30 miles an hour, came to a stop. My mum didn't even have time to react that I was doing an emergency stop. So it's like she was suddenly aware that we were completely stationary, not sure what had happened. And her first thought was, are there any cars behind that are about to go into the back of us? Which I checked because I keep an eye out all sides of me. I was like, yep, nothing behind me. If anything goes wrong, I can just stop. But I hadn't worked out what this flash was. I'd just seen something run out. I was like, that could be a child running into the middle of the road.
Yeah.
We came to a stop. She realised that we'd done an emergency stop, and she had no idea why. And then she saw a cat run out of the other side of the car, but it was like under the bumper. So I hadn't hit the cat, but it had got so close that it was under the front of the bumper, but hadn't been hit by a wheel or anything.
That cat.
So it's like it was that close to me hitting that cat. My mum always says that she's a better driver than I am because of experience. But from my point of view, my reaction speeds are better than hers because I'm younger. So it's like, I don't know. And also I can park, whereas she can't park. It's like when she did her driving test, things like parallel parking and bay parking weren't part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when I did my test, I had to do all sorts of additional manoeuvres. So I learned how to do that properly. So she just can't park a car, and she'll drive an extra half a mile to find the easiest parking space. But in some ways, I agree with you that she does have more experience. So she's come across more things in driving than I have.
Yeah.
Because she's been doing it 30 years, whereas I've been doing it for 5.
In my family, there's this running belief, especially where we had the accident. Since it's a lot of field, there's a lot of animals out there, deer, some domesticated dogs, but mostly squirrels.
Okay, yeah.
They have this belief of, if you're gonna hit an animal, don't swerve out of the road. Just go faster. And I mean, I'm not trying to rebuke that. That actually makes sense. You're not gonna wreck yourself and possibly kill yourself for just to try to save an animal's life. I mean, it seems kind of messed up, but your survival is essentially what's important here.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I would agree. I probably wouldn't speed up necessarily.
Well,
but yeah, you shouldn't necessarily swerve to avoid an animal.
When this was first told to me, my aunt was telling it to my cousin who was learning to drive, and she's very she's an animal lover. So
Okay,
I guess they were trying to spin it in a way to say like, well, it's gonna be more humane than if you were to run over it less quickly.
Quick exit. I was listening to another podcast. For those interested, it was the Off Topic podcast, and there was a guy in there called Jeff. Was going to catch up with his girlfriend. So he was driving partway across state to go and meet up with his girlfriend. Driving down this road, pitch black, and a deer runs out in front of him, and he hits the deer. So he stops and pulls over and calls his girlfriend. He's like, has no idea what he should do, because this deer is just like lying in the middle of the road, being hit by a car, but isn't dead. Oh. So it's just like some sort of mangled mess. He hasn't gone and looked at it because he's a bit squeamish. And his girlfriend says, you need to go back and run it over. You need to finish it off. So Jeff like paces back and forth on the phone and is like, he has to psych himself up to go back and kill this deer. So he gets back in his truck and then like turns it round, makes sure he's a decent distance away so he can get some speed up, and sets himself to go in gear, starts going forward, putting up some pace, and suddenly, just before he's about to hear it, the deer gets up and legs it out of the way.
Oh my god.
It's like, so we almost ran over this deer that was basically just shocked wasn't injured. But even worse than that, another deer runs out in the middle of the road and he hits that. I can't remember whether it was instantly or a little bit later on in the journey, but I'm pretty certain that he hits another deer. It's like 2 in one journey.
Oh wow! Did he finish that one off?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I can sympathize with that. It's not easy taking a life, even if it's just an animal's life.
Yeah, well, it's always a shock, isn't it? I've never hit anything. It's like, I've been fortunate that even though I live back at home, or my other house, I live in a very rural area. I've never been in an occasion where I haven't been able to avoid it.
I don't do it as much as anymore as I used to, but I used to hunt squirrels down in that same area. You can tell I spend a lot of time in this area where this crash happened. They have nut trees there, so like almonds and stuff like that. Okay, yeah. And the farmers put out poison, and what this poison does is it dries them out from the inside out. That sounds pretty hideous. Yeah, so it's a very slow, painful death. So and you would always find them on the ground. There's no avoiding it. So every season I would go out and take my little rifle, my little 22, and just go out and hunting, and whatever I could find I'd take. And I would always feel bad because there's this, at least for me, there's this primal wrongness to just killing an animal. But yeah, I think I'd struggle to kill an animal without need for it to die. Yeah, but what I would do is, like, what would give me consolation is I would skin it myself, and my aunt would actually like barbecue stuff, so just throw it on the barbecue and we'd eat it. So there's some consolation with at least. You are so American. I've never considered going out and hunting, and then I suppose, yeah, people around where I grew up would go and hunt, but they tend to do game hunting, pheasants and things like that. Oh yeah, I can't take anything bigger because I'd have to bring like a big old bucket or something because that's too much meat. Yeah. You said you had a slightly lighter story. Let's maybe move things on a bit. Oh, but I was actually getting in the groove with the sad stories, Ron. So this actually happened a couple days ago. We both play video games. So I've made some friends through a mutual friend of yours and mine who's a streamer, and yeah, we've been playing video games together for a bit now, and we've decided to start up like a streamer team, a gaming team. Oh yeah, yeah. So we're starting to do that, and I don't know. It's something small, but it feels exciting. We're creating something together. Oh, that's awesome. Have you got a name for it? Yeah, it's called Team Squee. Squee? Yeah. How do you spell that? SQUEE. Okay, yeah. Basically, the name comes from, we were playing with some friends one night. We were playing 7 Days to Die. And I can't remember what was said, but something was said that cracked everybody up. And one of our friends just started laughing uncontrollably. This went on for like 4 hours, this laughing. But it sounded, I kid you not, it sounded like a dog whistle. Really? Yes. Like my dog was staring at my phone, very concerned. That's where the name came from. It was just this uncontrollable laughter that would not go away and was extremely high pitched. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. That was a lighter note. That was a nice note. I'm intrigued to see where that goes. We are a podcast. Mm-hmm. In our podcast, we talk about other podcasts. Yes. So I was going to bring up very briefly a podcast I've been listening to, which is called the Horn Section Podcast. Any ideas what that would be about? No idea. So it's a play on words. The guy who runs it is a guy called Alex Horn, using his surname. And it's a kind of musical podcast, so it's music and comedy. So he has a band, the horn section. So in orchestras, you'd have like the string section, the percussion section, and the horns section. Oh, the horn section. It makes sense now. Yeah, you got it. It's clicking. Yeah. So I first heard of the horn section probably getting on for 10 years ago. They used to do a radio show on a broadcasting company called Radio 4, so the BBC here in the UK.
And I really enjoyed that. It was just like the ideal style of comedy because it's music, which I'm very into music, and it's a very kind of dry British humour. So it fits me really well. Probably fit an American audience less well. But you never know.
I was gonna say I don't know if I can listen to this podcast.
Yeah. So I've been to see the horn section twice. Once in London, once in Edinburgh. And then about a year ago, just under, they started a podcast, which is basically their radio show or their live show, but as a podcast. And they have a comedian on each week, and they just improvise funny music. And they have little, they're almost like musical sketches. It's like prime comedy. It's hilarious.
I mean, I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah, so that's the Horn Section podcast. It's worth listening to. And then moving on to another podcast, which we have discussed before. And this will bring us on to our next section, which is where I need you to have your phone ready.
Give me a second. Got it.
Okay, good stuff. Do you listen to the Unmade podcast?
I haven't listened since Tommy Ball.
So this is a podcast where they, each week, the two presenters, which is Brady and Tim, come up with podcasts they'd like to make or like to listen to. So a podcast which is currently unmade, hence the name, Unmade Podcast. But they had a section in, I think their latest episode, might have been a few episodes ago now, called Photo Roulette. So I would like to play with you, Raz.
Oh, God,
I would like to play Photo Roulette.
I don't like where this is going.
So this won't work ideally from my end because I don't keep any photos on my phone. I keep them all online. So instead, I've got a hard drive which has all of my photos on. So when it comes to my turn, I will randomize through that. But the way this works, open up your photo viewing app and you will scroll through your photos a couple of times and then randomly click one, whatever it lands on. You have to describe it and explain some backstory behind the photo.
This is terrible, Ron. Most of mine are memes.
Oh, that's even better. That's like ideal. So if you could open up your photo app.
Okay, it's open.
Swipe up a few times and then partway through, stop and click and see what the photo is.
I got a picture of one of my tests. The test says impress me. It was a test on constitutional law.
Oh dear.
And
this has been a really light episode.
Yeah. It just said, the question just says impress me for extra credit. And I put,
wow, really?
yeah. And I said why and just question mark. And I got 4 extra points. It said,
really?
Yeah, he said good.
Wow.
He said good. Always question the man.
That's so good. Oh, that's a great photo.
Yeah. I just took it
Wow.
because I was like, I'm never going to get one of those again.
Would you be happy to stick that in the Discord?
Oh, yeah, I can do that.
I think in the same way as last time we had the predictive text stuff.
Just drop it in there
We just-
randomly?
yeah, a little teaser.
Okay, here we go. Let me find it.
While Raz is doing that, we'll say a quick hello to everyone in the Discord.
Hello.
Yeah. Thank you for people who've joined the Discord. That's the best place to speak to us. Or tweet at us. That's another way that we will respond. At tpod21. I'm going to have a quick look at this photo. So yeah, we'll do our best to include this within the show notes. Impress me. Why? You actually got 4 marks.
Yes.
Always question the man. That might be I think I might name the episode Always Question the Man.
I'm down. Let's do it.
There we go. That's episode title. Episode number 2. Okay. Mine's going to be slightly more confusing. And I'm going to give you a chance to vaguely choose. So, 5, 10, 15, 20. Yeah. Pick a number between 1 and 20.
15.
15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 13, 14, 15. You have chosen a folder called Quadcopter.
Oh my.
There is only one folder in this, and it's called Back Garden. Might suddenly turn into a bit of a docs, but oh well. Okay. Oh, this could be really boring. Most of these are just testing the camera on my old drone from about 6 years ago. There's about 17 photos in here, so pick a number between 1 and 17.
4.
Oh, how exciting. This is one of the most boring photos on my entire drive.
Is it?
And I've got several terabytes of photos.
Is it just the grass?
No, it's a photo taken inside my house. It's in our dining room. You can see in the background a conservatory. Yeah, very uninteresting, but this is probably the first day I had my drone. So I was like 13 or 14, I I think.
Oh, wow.
I bought myself a drone for my birthday, and I wasn't sure. The controls for the camera were not very obvious. There was a green and a red light, and if you held a button up for 3 seconds, it would start a recording. The red light would change to green. If you held the button up for a second, it would flash the red light, and that would take a photo. So most of the photos on this folder are just me holding the drone away from me, trying to work out how the camera worked. So it's literally just it's a couple of chairs, 2 different tables, and a bit of my back garden. Yeah, so
those controls seem so unintuitive.
Yeah, it was a very poor design, but it's quite good fun.
Wow, it's a nice table though.
Thank you. My mother would be happy to hear that. Now, the next section, Raz.
Okay.
And this is basically our final section for this episode. Another 4 weeks and we can do this again.
Yay!
So this section, vaguely going off last episode when we talked about sudden arrhythmic death syndrome, but slightly lighter. Again, I've researched into a topic and we're going to have a short discussion about it, because I think we'll have surprisingly different views on this. We'll either be very different because of the countries in which we grew up, or we will be amusingly similar.
Whoa, Ron. We don't want to lose the viewers this quickly into the podcast.
Okay, so I have some facts. I will read them one at a time. After each one, I'll ask you, do you think you know what the topic is?
Okay.
If you get it, I'll finish reading through the facts. If we get to the last one, I'm pretty certain you'll get it by the last one. If we don't, I'll just tell you what it is.
Make me look foolish.
Okay, Mr. Razzle Dazzle.
Yes, Mr. Ron.
Fact number 1. If you get it from this, I think we might have to end the podcast, because you clearly know too much. So, fact number 1. It is thought to have originated in medieval Europe. What do you think it is?
No idea. That's too much stuff. That's too broad.
Okay, no, go for a random guess. Anything at all.
Torture.
Torture. Yeah, I can see where you're going. I think that was European. And it depends what type of torture you're talking about. But anyway, keep things light. Fact number 2. It developed due to a change in headgear. Any ideas?
Change of headgear.
Again, very surprised if you get it at this point.
Muskets.
Ooh, it's getting a lot closer. I'm impressed. Okay, this one's slightly more... It will push you slightly in the right direction, I reckon. So fact number 3. It is a gesture of respect or polite recognition.
Saluting.
Yes, Rash. It is indeed the salute. So I'll just finish off the facts. So fact number 4, commonly done to or by a person arriving or departing. It was formalised in European armies by around about 1780. Originally the hat was metal, but over time it became non-metal and taller. And then a quote, this is the final clue, a quote from a 1745 British order book. And the quote is, "The men are ordered not to pull off their hats when they pass an officer, or to speak to them, but only to clap up their hands to their hats and bow as they pass." So yes, Raz, the salute. Have you ever, I suppose, officially saluted somebody?
No, I've never been in the position where I had to.
Oh, really? I'm surprised because of your kind of current direction.
Yeah, back when I was younger, I wanted to join the military, but that didn't pan out for certain reasons. I'm vaguely familiar on the form of how you're supposed to salute, and I know a little bit about the history.
Yeah.
But I've never been in the position where I've had to salute somebody.
You're vaguely talking about it there, that salutes do vary, and there is a proper form, I suppose, for how you should salute. I made the foolish decision of only looking up the British versions of the salute, but I'm hoping that you can vaguely tell me the American equivalents. So for the British Army, I've written this down to make sure I don't get it wrong. The British Army developed a salute with an outward-facing palm, which is also used by the Royal Air Force. However, the Royal Navy, yeah, you have a navy.
Yeah.
Thinking, what do the Americans call the navy? Is that the Marines? No, that's not the Marines.
No.
So the Royal Navy has a downwards-facing palm, and this is thought to be because men working on ships would have dirty palms, and it was disrespectful to display your dirty palms to a superior. So they adjusted the salute to being a downward-facing palm, which I thought was quite interesting. Because I knew there were different salutes, and there's things like the Scout's Honour, which is, I think, 3-fingered.
Yes.
But yeah, I knew there were different ones between the different sections of the military, but I didn't know why or what specifically. But from what I know now, British Army is an outward-facing palm, as is the Royal Air Force. And the Royal Navy has a downward-facing palm.
For us, across our military, as far as I can remember, because I'm no expert in this anymore. I never was, but I knew more. It's similar to your guys' salute, except the hand goes, I believe, to the eyebrow, and then
Oh yes, yeah.
and then it's a downward facing salute. And if you have your cover on, your hand is supposed to go on the tip of your cover, so like the brim.
What's your cover? Is that a beret, effectively?
It depends on the unit, but it's effectively like their. Oh, I'm gonna.
It's a headwear or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna trigger.
Okay.
So many military people, but it's essentially
Yeah, so we do apologize. We are not experts.
It's essentially a hat, like a ball cap kind of thing, but it's more taller depending on the unit and everything.
Oh, yeah, I think I know what you mean.
So your hand would go on the brim of that hat, and I think there was a certain way your shoulder's supposed to be positioned. I think it's supposed to be parallel to the ground, I believe.
Yeah, so you're not meant to raise or lower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
there is an entire form to it.
Yeah, that's one of those things that gets deeply ingrained into you once you joined up.
Yeah, the same as ballerinas always tend to stand in like a proper position with like their splayed feet or like first position, whatever it's called. I'm not an expert in ballet or the military. But yeah, I've never saluted anyone out of respect, I don't think. I've never been in a situation that would warrant that being the right thing to do. I did used to kind of more kind of casually salute my friends if I saw them. So instead of like waving, I'd do a little like, almost like tipping my hat. Which is probably a more British thing to do, to kind of slightly tap your eyebrows like, oh, I know that person. It was originated in medieval Europe, which is when they used to wear full metal armor, and they would have a helmet with a faceplate.
Oh yeah, they would raise the faceplate.
Yeah, to show that you're friendly, you would raise it up. But then when they went away from metal armor to more formal headwear, what's it called? There's a hat in, the Queen's Guard. So outside Buckingham Palace.
Oh yeah.
You have so a red jacket, black trousers, black boots, and you wear a very tall, fluffy hat. I think that's called a busby.
Kind of looks like a microphone.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, it is a busby. It's got a Hungarian name. I'm not even going to bother trying to pronounce that.
Don't do it. It's a trap.
So military headdress made of fur. So yeah, when certainly the UK went over to taller like grenadier hats, then they kept with the raising of the hand as a sign of respect and a sign of being a friendly. But clearly they didn't have a faceplate, so they weren't raising it up anymore. But it is interesting because on its own, the salute is quite a weird gesture. But I suppose also clapping is quite a weird gesture.
Yeah.
If you think about just hitting your hands together to make a noise in respect to someone doing something.
Seems very caveman-like.
Yeah, maybe we'll, on a different episode, look at the derivation of a clap. But yeah, the salute is a sign of respect, but comes from showing that you're friendly, which I think is where the handshake comes from as well.
I believe
that's why
so.
handshake is right-handed, because that used to be
the most common
weapon-holding hand. Yeah.
I have a army field manual somewhere, and it explains that pretty well. It's that basically most military traditions come back from that time.
Okay. Yeah. I suppose that was kind of early formalized military.
Yeah, especially here back in the 1700s. We took a lot from you guys.
Yeah. Fanboyed over the English.
Yes, a little bit. And then got mad and threw the tea in Boston. But that's a different thing. Old wounds.
Yeah, we'll discuss that another time. Yeah, I was interested by that. It was just, I'd been discussing with Fen a couple of ideas of what I could look into and learn about. And then I was walking around campus a couple of weeks back, about a fortnight ago, and suddenly thought, well, I don't know why we salute. And I had an idea, so I thought it was raising a visor, but I wasn't certain of that, and I wasn't sure why we'd kept it once we came away from headgear with visors. So yeah, I thought I'll look into it, and I'll see how much Raz knows. And I did expect you to have come across it more because of your slightly more military background from me.
I've seen it. I had a lot of military friends, so I've been in the presence of it, but yeah,
You've never formally done it?
No, I've never had to. My father was not Spanish military, Mexican military, and he told me that the salute is actually I think it's pretty similar to yours as well, where it's an upwards palm.
Yeah.
But when you salute the flag, your hand goes to your chest. I don't know how to explain this.
So is it like hand over heart kind of thing?
Yeah, but instead it's more like how Americans salute, but on your chest, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah. So it's a kind of cross the heart.
Yeah, and then they say the national anthem. And
yeah, you're very big into your flag, you Americans. I mean, it's a good flag, to be fair. I will admit that.
I mean, I know two certain podcasters who might disagree.
Yes, let's stop discussing vexillology. I have no real interest in that, but so yeah, that was what I looked into for this episode.
I like it. You surprised me, Ron. I didn't expect that.
I'm glad you managed to get it from the clues. I had no idea what level to broach them at, because I did think you'd get it definitely from the second one, developed due to a change in headgear. Because some people who know like military to a very high level would be like, oh, salute, definitely.
I was going more towards weapons. I was thinking, okay, arrows maybe. No, arrows would have.
But you were straight in there with the right area with the military in some respects.
Yeah.
I was very impressed.
I actually impressed myself a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
It made yourself smile.
Yeah.
That's a lighter note to end on. So yeah, we'll do a quick plug. So as I've said, follow us on Twitter at tpod21. Feel free to send us emails. The email is theproject.pod21@gmail.com. And Fen, as far as I know, has kept up with his word and has replied to every email sent in. So thank you for sending those in. Thanks, Raz. I've enjoyed this.
I've enjoyed it too, Ron, as always.
And I will attempt to do it again in approximately 2 weeks.
We'll see.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Oh, Raz.
Yes?
Did you know hamsters can wink?
I did not. That would explain why my hamster's constantly winking at me.